G.
Good.
These are some great games.
Golly. Gosh. G stuff.
Man, by the time we're getting to like V,
we're gonna be desperate.
I don't even know what we're gonna do.
We're just gonna be laying on the floor being like, I don't know, zebras, you know? We are the Brothers Murph. Hey, everyone, and we are continuing our alphabet series.
Yes, we are.
Doing 10 games that we really love and enjoy from each letter of the alphabet for the most part. Going through kind of in order.
Yeah, we're doing G today.
ABCs, yeah.
And G, there's not that many games from G, but the games that do start with G, a lot of them are like all-time greats.
And we'll say that for us. We obviously aren't aware of every game in existence. There's thousands that are started with G, but these are the ones that we like. One I'm gonna put out there to get ahead of it. Guy Project's on the list because Nick hasn't played it. It'd be like number one for me, but just to get ahead of that, don't at us.
I haven't played it yet.
He just refuses to play it, so it's his fault.
More or less.
Or at him, if you gotta.
Let's get into number 10. Our number 10 game that starts with a G is going to be Get On Board. There's actually two Get On Boards. Get On Board, oh gosh, I don't remember the pairings, but it's London, Paris, Rome, and New York. I know those are the 4 cities that are in it, but this is actually a newer version of a game called Let's Make a Bus Route by Saashi and Saashi, which is really, really good, but is hard to get here in North America. And so I believe it's IELLO picked it up, and they now made Let's Make a Bus Route, Get On Board. And Get On Board is mostly the same game. But Let's Make a Bus Route and Get On Board is essentially a roll and write, or in this case, a flip and fill, where you are all making bus routes and stuff on the same board. You have one board that's gonna be the city, in this case, like New York or London or Paris or Rome or something like that. And you're putting out your little, and Get On Board, your little, you have little logs, like little wooden logs in your color, and you're putting them out and basically showing the route that you're taking. And it's kind of like I don't want to say pick up a deliver game, but kind of in theme. Basically, you'll go around and at all these different intersections around the city, you are going to be coming across like students, just general pedestrians, and you'll also be coming across things like museums and universities. So at the end of the game, you're gonna get all these kind of multipliers for different things that you visited. So if you, like for instance, you're gonna take the amount of students that you visited, and then you're gonna multiply that by the amount of universities that you visited, because in the theme of the game, you have then picked up those citizens on your bus and taken them to school. And so that's gonna be one of the points. And it's really, really cool. So there's 2 different versions. In one of the ones, you're making bus routes. The other one, you're making subway routes. In the bus routes one thing you don't wanna do is you don't wanna put your pieces next to someone else's, because that means there's multiple buses on that street. It's creating a lot of pollution, and that's not good. So you're also trying to avoid everyone else. But in the other one, where you're making subway routes, you get benefited by going along the same route as someone else, because then you're kind of going on the same rail line, and it saves resources, it saves things like that. So you actually get benefited for it, which is really, really cool. Let's Make a Bus Route is a really, really good game. Get On Board is basically the same game, just kind of updated, made it a little bit easier. It's really, really good.
Number 9 is Glass Road. You know we have to have Uwe Rosenberg on the list if possible. We actually just recently tried Glass Road for the first time at BGG Spring this year. Shouts out to BGG, their cons are the best. We had always heard about Glass Road. It has the kind of resource wheel from Uwe Rosenberg that's been used in a few different games, most recently Oranienburger Canal. And this was one that we were really kind of surprised by, because it felt much more interactive for a Uwe Rosenberg game, I'll say. In that you were playing out cards on your turn, and we all have the kind of same set of action cards, and you're doing a little bit of that. I'm gonna try to play these cards I don't think anyone else is gonna play, so I can get both halves of the action, get kind of like a super turn. But if you play a card that matches someone else when they play it, you get to kind of borrow on their action and do maybe some extra action. So there's a little bit of that kind of gauging out what other people you think are gonna kind of be doing, what they're trying to build out onto their board, what kind of things they're trying to clear off tiles-wise and stuff. And so I really kind of enjoyed that. That was a new aspect to me for an Uwe Rosenberg game, and one that was really interesting. And it's ultimately a fairly quick, at least a 2-player, very quick Uwe Rosenberg game, kind of like Newsfjord, where you kind of get in, get some stuff, build some buildings, you know, cover up your board with things, get rid of those negatives and stuff, and then move on. So Glass Road was really fun. I really want to play it again to kind of explore more, but that first play was highly enjoyable. So that is number 9.
Number 8 is gonna be one of our favorite party games at this point, and this is Green Team Wins, because the green team is the best team, although in this case, the losing team is the orange team, which is my favorite color, so I kind of have a beef with Green Team Wins, but nonetheless, it's still a very good game. I just wish it was Orange Team Wins, and then we could put it with the O's where it belongs. But nonetheless, this is a kind of hive mind party game where you're gonna be given some kind of prompt. It can be a multiple choice. You're like, cake or pie, and then everyone is gonna write down either cake or pie. Or it could be like a fill in the blank, like blank mustard. So you can write like yellow mustard or honey mustard or, you know, whatever, something like that. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to pick the answer that you think the most other people are going to pick. So if you think yellow mustard is the most common one, you're gonna write yellow. It's not necessarily the one you like the most, although yellow mustard is amazing. It's the one you think everyone else is going to pick, and then everyone eventually is going to reveal their answers, and whatever the majority answer is, all of those people then are on the green team, and the green team wins. And if you then go on to the green team from the orange team, you are gonna gain 1 point. If you were already on the green team and you stayed on the green team, you get 2 points. So in this game, you're constantly just trying to stay on the green team. If you were not in the majority, you then get put onto the orange team, and the orange team sucks. And so it's just, and that's all it is. And so you have a couple different kinds of prompts, again, like fill in the blank, this or that, which would be like cake or pie, and then I think 3 choices. So this, or this, and you choose like A, B, or C. It's just gonna be a whole bunch of different questions, but they're also like really weird, like what serial cartoon character, like Toucan Sam or Captain Kirk, like which one would win in a fight? Something like that. They're really silly, but it's fun because you're not choosing what you like, you're trying to choose what you think other people are gonna choose, and that adds a little wrinkle in there, which is really, really fun. And then the real fun of it is when you're on the green team, you just get to be so smug. You just get to be like, oh, feels good to be on the green team, must suck to be on the orange team. It's just really, really silly and fun, and I love Green Team Wins.
Number 7 is Glenmore 2, the Chronicles, where there's a bunch of different modules you can add in to your play. And this is ultimately a tile laying game. I love tile laying games. You know, go back to Carcassonne. I love the idea that you start off with something that's kind of just small and minimal in front of you, and you're going to build out a growing landscape, this kind of wonderful river in the middle of everything that you build, and everything has to do with kind of adjacency. Where you build has to be adjacent to one of your little figures, and you can build out and then activate tiles and activate all the surrounding tiles next to what you place. So there's just like these great kind of chaining combinations that happen where you gain resources onto the tiles. You start getting into tiles that will allow you to start spending resources to earn points. And then there's all these modules you can add in, one or more of them at a time, to create new kind of goals and objectives. One thing I always play with is the kind of boat race, where we all have this river that we're building, and now you have these boats that go around, and you go from starting on your kind of main castle. You go down the river, and then once you get at the edge of your board, you pop to the opponent to your left in their river, and you go down that one. And you have to actually go all the way around the table. Something like that, I think, is just like kind of neat. Like, I was like, that's so fun. Like, my ship's all the way there across the table doing stuff on other people's tiles and whatnot, and it kind of gives you more use of the move your people around action. So I'm like, cool, more things to think about. There's other modules that get way more complicated and stuff, and I just love how much there is to explore, and it's just otherwise a simple tile laying kind of game. Glenmore 2 is awesome. It's number 7.
Number 6 was the former number 1 game of all time for quite a while, actually, and this is Gloomhaven. I really, really like Gloomhaven. It's number 3 overall, which means it's trash. That's not true. It's still very, very good. I will say one thing about Gloomhaven. I think I would prefer to play Gloomhaven digitally, because Gloomhaven is a very, very big scenario-based dungeon crawler where there are a whole bunch of different kinds of enemies, a whole bunch of different stories. All the encounters are different. A lot of times they'll follow certain things, like you need to eliminate all these enemies, you need to go in this room and pull this lever and then get out while you can, things like that. And there's a whole bunch of different story, but this is a really great game because I love the combat in this game. Or not sorry, combat, I love the action selection in this game because you have multi-use cards where you're gonna play 2 cards in your turn, and you're gonna play the top half of one card and the bottom half of another card. Generally speaking, the bottom half is going to be movement, and the top half is usually gonna be some kind of attack or ability. Sometimes that's switched up, but that's usually how it is. But there are different characters in this game because you are mercenaries who are being hired to do a whole bunch of different stuff, depending on where you are in the story. And every merc works differently. It honestly feels differently. And what I think Gloomhaven is really good at, and I think why people love it so much, is like, you really honestly need to learn each character. And the first couple times scenarios you play with a character, you'll be like, okay, this character's cool, but then you figure out how to work them, and you figure out how to work those synergies between their cards, and then as you're getting more experience, you get to unlock bigger and cooler cards, and then you bring those in, you try to figure out how those work, and that kind of discovery is so addictive in board games, and I think Gloomhaven is one of the games that does it the best, where you really honestly have to learn your character and get good at your character. I think it's outstanding. I do like the digital version because in Gloomhaven, there's a lot of bookkeeping because you have a ton of enemies. They all move in kind of specific, well, they all move the same way, but sometimes you're like, there's a lot of edge cases basically where you're like, okay, in this situation, would they go here or here? And you just kind of have to figure all that kind of stuff out. There's a lot of like tokens and stuff, but in the digital version, all of that's taken care of by the game. And so you just get to focus on your character, your card play. It also looks really nice. So Gloomhaven, analog or digital, is absolutely outstanding. At this point, considering I've played through the whole physical game, I think I'll only play it digital now, but I do really, really like it. Gloomhaven's outstanding. It was #1 for a reason, and it's great.
Number 5 is another tile laying game. This is Gingerbread House from Praise Be, Phil Walker Harding. All praises to Phil. That was the echoes of the people that you heard there in the background. Praise be to Phil Walker Harding. This guy gets it. Gingerbread House is another game of Phil Walker Harding's that we really love, especially around the holidays, because you are building a gingerbread house in a fantastical world with all the kind of creatures and characters you'd expect from many a fairy tale. And what this kind of premise is you're building this gingerbread house, you're a witch, and you're trying to lure all these characters in so you can trap them and definitely not eat them, except for sure that's what's gonna happen. And you are doing this by making delicious gingerbreads and stuff by stacking up tiles, these domino style tiles, these 2-sided tiles. And you're gonna place them into a little 3x3 grid, so you are fairly limited in how wide you can build your area, and everything that you cover up is going to be what you get. So it might be different colored gingerbreads, it might be special actions and things like that. And this game comes down to combos on combos, because if you ever get 2 of the same icon covered up at the same time, like 2 blue gingerbreads, for example, you get a bonus third of that thing. Same goes for special actions, or even the wild actions that you can get. Every time you capture a character by turning in gingerbreads that match their card, you get a wild tile, which you put down immediately, which might chain off other, special actions or gingerbreads that you gain, because again, you're covering up stuff on your board. It's so fun. You get 15 quick turns. There's a little bit of intrigue with the spatialness of the limitations of how wide you can build your house, and you just try to pull off the biggest combos possible. It's so fantastic. The art is just delightful and silly. It's one that we keep coming back to again, especially around the holidays. Every year it gets played. I can't wait to play it again. That is Gingerbread House.
Number 4 is a game if you want some pain, and that is Grand Austria Hotel. Gosh, the hotel business is brutal. That's actually probably true. But clientele in hotels gotta suck, right? Like, it's gotta, if anyone works in a hotel, let us know in the comments. Is it cool? Is it cool, or is it not great? But no, it's Grand Austria Hotel. You are building a big old hotel in Belgium, weirdly enough. No, you're in Austria. And this is a game where you're gonna be, the first player is gonna be rolling out all these dice, and then you're gonna separate them all by like all the 1s, all the 2s, all the 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s. And each action is associated with a pip value. So if you wanna get cake and strudel, you will That's the 1 die. Coffee and wine is the 2 die. To open up new rooms in your hotel is the 3 die. Things like that. And on your turn, you are going to be drafting one of those die, and then you're gonna be doing that action. Now, the thing is with the actions is you're gonna do the action equal to however many dice are there. So if you're doing the wine and coffee action, which I believe is 2, and there are 4 dice there when you draft it, you essentially get to get 4 wine or coffee. If there are 6, you get to do 6. If there's only 1, you only get 1. So there's a lot of like interesting choices where you're like, wow, I really need to do this, but man, there's 6 dice on the cake and strudel spot. I don't really need it, but I should probably just get it because there's so many over there. And it's a really nice, tough decision. But sometimes you're also like, I really need this, and then it just doesn't really get rolled. And you're like, whoo, this game is all about adapting with all the crap that's happening. It's tough. And you just have to constantly switch, adapt, switch. And it's really, really interesting, really, really tough. I love it. And so essentially you're bringing in guests because you have a cafe at the bottom of your hotel. That's why you need cake and strudel and wine and coffee. And each guest is gonna have something they wanna eat, something they wanna drink. And then if you satisfy them, you give them what they want, they will then go and stay in your hotel, which is an interesting way to do hotels. I've never been like, I'm gonna go to the Starbucks underneath this hotel, and if they do what I want them to do, I will stay here. It's always been kind of a weird thematic thing to me. But nonetheless, and then you need to put them into a room. Each guest has a color like red, blue, yellow, or green, and they have to go into a room matching that color. So you're managing all these things, and it's just tough. Really tough, really brutal, super tight, and it's just so good.
Number 3 is the Great Western Trail Now series. We'll just lump them all in together. We like them all. New Zealand being our current favorite, being the newest and kind of biggest of them all. Great Western Trail is just an incredible game now, again, series. That uses this kind of trail that you go through, and you go from building to buildings as you're herding cattle around, and you're ultimately going to Kansas City in the original to deliver hands of cards that have all the different color cattle as possible. You can't turn in more than one of the same color. It's not useful. We want a variety of cattle breeds here for maximum value. So as you go around from building to building, you're gonna be able to hire new employees, which help you get better actions as you go. You can build buildings to give yourself unique actions that only you can do. You can buy more cattle to diversify that that deck, I should say, as you're kind of doing this deck building. You can go and develop this kind of rail system so that you can gain all these different points as you build out stations along the route. And when you get to Kansas City, you make a delivery and you start that whole route over again, but now you have more money and maybe more employees and things like that. And you kind of have this great build up in the game. That for us, I think, is what keeps us coming back. All the versions of Great Western Trail have that foundation of going through a trail, making some deliveries and starting that trail over again. And there's so much to explore there with the different types of buildings you can build. You know, the different groupings of employees you get to kind of power up one aspect of the game or another. Great Western Trail in New Zealand, the new one, has all sorts of stuff to explore. You can deliver wool, you can deliver sheep, you can do all sorts of things that the other versions didn't even bring. So now as a whole series, there's a ton of stuff to explore. Great Western Trail has been a classic since it kind of came out, a recent classic, a modern classic, if you will, and for good reason. We love it. We love the whole series. It's number 3.
Number 2 is a newer game for us, and this is La Granja. Now, La Granja starts with La, but La is just the, and in this whole series, we're ignoring things like A Feast for Odin, and La Granja, because it's just the farm, essentially, but G. And so La Granja is an older game that actually recently got a new big deluxe version from Board&Dice, but the games are ultimately the same. This is a game where, man, there's just so many choices in this game, and it is just these delicious multi-use cards where every single card you get, that's what the kind of base around the game is based around these cards. You have so many decisions because each card has 4 uses. 4, it's insane. You can, on the left side of the card, put it on the left side of your board, which is going to be some kind of farm aspect, like a vineyard, a wheat field, an olive field, things like that. You can put it on the bottom of your board, and on the bottom of your board is going to show a special power. Each card also has a special power that you then will just have for the rest of the game. At the top of the card is some kind of contract that you want to fulfill, and that contract might want like wine or olives or oil or things like that. Or on the right side, you can put on the right side of your board, and that's gonna be some kind of farm extension. It's gonna give you some extra money. It's gonna allow you to hold extra cards. It's gonna give you more pigs, things like that. So every single card you come across, you're like, oh my gosh. First of all, what cards do I keep? Second of all, do I wanna use this as the contract? Whoa, this special ability is really, really good. Do I want to use it for that? But I really need vineyards. So maybe I should put it over here because it has 2 vineyards on it. And it's so juicy. All those decisions are so tough and so good. Oh my gosh, I love it so much just thinking about it. It's really, really fun, really tough decisions, and especially the special powers. Like, you can really be very different than your opponents by the end of the game because you have spots for 3 special powers, which means you can be very asymmetric. It's so cool. And essentially, you're fulfilling these contracts and then putting kind of a bit of an area control spot on the main board, trying to fill up these different carts around the main board, trying to fill them up with different stuff, get points that way. It's just so good. The original is really, really great, but the new version by Board&Dice, which has new art that's beautiful and a whole bunch of different modules. All the modules that we tried so far have been really, really fun. Some give you asymmetric powers, some add certain things here and there. It's just really, really fun. I love the Granja. We played it for the first time about a year ago, and we just love it more and more every time we play. It's absolutely outstanding.
Number 1 for G's, we have BGG's own Steph Hodge to thank for this. This is Ginkopolis. Steph was telling us about how amazing Ginkopolis is for over a year before we finally got to try it. We hadn't run into a copy of it, and then I finally spotted it in a store randomly, and I said, I must have you. And I'm so glad we got it. It's such an incredible city building game ultimately. But this game for me is the maybe best example of doing the most with the least. It is a game where you can ultimately take 3 actions. You can play a card down to get a minimal amount of resources or tiles or points. You can play a card along with a tile to expand the city and kind of build it out and make it wider and taller. Or you can construct and build the city up. You can add levels to buildings and build the city up into these, I guess, nature-filled skyscrapers, as it were. So what's really cool is you have 3 actions. You have 3 types of things. You have resources, tiles, and points. And with those few things, you have engine building, because as you construct the town, the city, you get to collect cards and put them in front of you that might give you bonuses when you take actions or accesses to endgame scoring. You are card drafting because you're not just keeping your hand of cards. Every time you play a card, you have to pass the hand out to your opponent, so that creates some intrigue about, I hope they don't use this card I was hoping to use. You are doing city building, you're doing area control because you want to create ultimately groups of connected tiles of the same color where you have the most of your resources, the kind of claim markers, I'll say, in that area to score the maximum amount of points. So you have area control, city building, card drafting, engine building, resource management, all with a game that only has 3 types of actions. To me, it's incredible. They create so much thinkiness, so much decision space with so few moving parts. It's just ultimately just elegant. For us, it's that game that gets the elegant modifier put onto it, or qualifier put onto it. So that is Ginkopolis at number 1.
So that is our top 10. A quick couple honorable mentions. As Mike mentioned earlier, I have not played Gaia Project yet. I really do want to, despite his slander. I really want to. Good. Another honorable mention is Hente's really cool, kind of a
civ building
game in theme. Very cool game. I'm sure there's plenty more G games. So put your favorite games that start with G, especially ones that we didn't mention, down in the comments below, because we're always looking for great games in general, and games starts with G.
Boom.